Hi, everybody. My name is Jon Brence. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Twitch. And first of all, I want to say a huge thank you to Samsung for bringing me out to this event and obviously meeting and chatting with all of you, either over dinner or breakfast. I think these events are perfect for us, especially coming out of 2 years of quarantine where we didn't have that opportunity to truly connect. And I encourage all of you who are also watching at home, please interact with one another, build those relationships, because as I tell many people, we're all in this space together for the next 20 to 30 years, so let's continue to create together. So a little bit about myself. I've been a creator now for 16 years in the space. I started off in the YouTube circuit working with Saturday morning breakfast cereal, 5-second films, and the folks over at Side 9 Happiness, and gradually transitioned my career into being a producer and manager for many acts, including some of the folks that are here today. So I look forward to guiding you through an exercise that I have guided many of my top creators on Twitch and my clients over the years. And I hope that if you have a notepad, if you have, pull out your phone, take some notes for yourself. There won't be a quiz at the end of this. There will be a Q&A. But let's get started, shall we? First of all, there's a few things that I want you to embody. And this is something that's probably opposite than what you've heard in the space over the course of these many years. First of all, you are more than a follower count. A follower is one person at one point in time who clicked a button and said they liked you. It's similar like walking into a venue and they have that little clicker to let them know that they came through. It is not a tell of your success. It is not a tell of ultimately your engagement. It's purely a number that supports you. So I want you to separate from that follower count. And from this day forward, I would encourage you, don't celebrate it. Celebrate yourself. 2, you're more than the money you make. This entire career path is a roller coaster. I've experienced it. I've had my ups, I've had my downs as I've gone through this circuit, but knowing that you are creating, that is what matters. The fact that you're continuing to go in the space. Some of the speakers you've heard this week talk about this experience, the navigation you have to go through, finding new communities, finding new segments of audience. And I encourage you to think about that for yourself and separate from the money for a moment. 3rd, you're more than the products you create. Every single person will tell you right after you complete your greatest video, what's next? What's next? Embody and embrace the fact that you just had a success. Celebrate in your success. Embrace the fact that you put out a great product. Sometimes those products fail. Sometimes they have less viewership than anticipated, but the fact that you put it out there is what matters. 4th, you're more than the number of views you receive. Once again, most of these services are algorithm driven. You don't have any control ultimately over your audience distribution aside from the relationships which you form directly with your community. That's why I personally celebrate Twitch, because I have an opportunity to connect with my community, and from what I understand, I know many of my audience members are actually watching me right now who catch me in my regular broadcasts. Celebrate those personal connections versus the total aggregate number. And finally, and this is something that can get us caught into a moment of despair at times, it can get us really downtrodden, you are more than somebody else's opinion. Separate from the fact of if a person is coming into your space and they're saying, oh, I much prefer you do this or do that, it's always coming down to your decision that drives it forward. There's a great creator, Brene Brown. I don't know if any of you have ever happened to read. Okay, there we go. We got some people who are really excited by her. What she does is she keeps in her wallet a list of names of people she truly respects, that if they were to give her feedback, that's who she values. That's who she listens to. For myself, that is my community on Twitch. If they say, I preferred that show, or I saw you really enjoying it, I trust them because they are my direct supporters. If a lurker or a random passerby says, don't like your hair color, okay. You don't have to like my hair color because you're not my audience. So separate those opinions that you hear in the space. So take these to heart as we go. One of my favorite comedians of all time, Steve Martin. Obviously very well established, started as a magician working at Disneyland and worked his way through the circuit. And a lot of times when comedians walk up to him, they say, well, how did you establish yourself? How do you get a manager? How do you get an agent? How do you find success? And he always responds to it with, be so good, they can't ignore you. There's a reason why he'd wear a white suit on stage in his early career. Nobody else was. Everybody else was wearing different outfits. He wanted to stand out. He wanted to present himself in an aesthetic that commanded attention. Prince, David Bowie, other folks have this it factor that when you see them perform, you know they're so in tune with their craft that they can't separate from it, and you can't separate from them. So when you go to create, don't roll out of bed wearing your casual wear or whatever. Own yourself. Establish yourself. What is that presence that you want to bring to the space? And create that together. So first of all, it all began with you. There's a reason why you started creating. For me, it was back in 1995, I was introduced to a game called Earthbound, my favorite game. I got the characters tattooed on my arm. And the reason why it was so important is because the story of that game told me, it's like, okay, it's a boy, small town, being bullied. I'm like, okay, I can relate to that. I feel that. But what it told me was the journey of the game is in order to find friendships, you must explore the world. So I escaped my small town and started exploring the world. That's where I found the relationships. That's where I found my ability to create and get out there. By sharing that story with you, there may even be some people in the audience, especially on Twitch, who have also had a similar journey with Earthbound. Or maybe there's a song that you'd like to celebrate for yourself, or perhaps you were inspired by another artist, or an event happened in your family that got you to this. What is that personal story, and have you shared it with your fan base? Do they know why you are creating? Simon Sinek does a fantastic TED Talk called Start With Why. And when you think about how you pitch yourself, I was actually hearing some folks pitch themselves this morning, and oftentimes they'll say, hey, I am a variety content creator. I love my community, I stand by my community, and I'm all about positivity. That doesn't mean anything. Who is your community? What do they stand for? Why do you stand for them? What embodies all these factors together? So I want you to think about that for yourself. What is your why and your purpose? Why do you get up in the morning to create? Why do you post? Celebrate that. And tell that story to your audience. Now you're probably thinking, how do I create the perfect show based on that understanding? And I like to reference Bob Ross. Bob Ross is a huge presence on Twitch. He does marathon broadcasts of The Joy of Painting. Famous show, obviously was syndicated via PBS for many years. But I believe that the execution of Bob Ross is the perfect show, and it can work in short form as well. So if we go through the flow of his show, it begins with him with a paintbrush washing away a green screen that introduces the joy of painting. Okay, there's the story. Okay, there's the title card. Now we're going to transition into a show. He presents at the bottom of the screen, these are the toolkits of which you're going to require to participate. I want you to meaningfully participate. Paint alongside me. Join me in today's journey. So he's giving you, this is the toolkit, this is what you need, this is how you can interact and become a part of this. As we flow through the show, you see him execute his craft. He tells personal stories. He tells you, okay, well, if you make this brush stroke, actually just try this a little bit differently. You can create a different type of leaf. He's showing you the craft as you go through. He also has rituals that you expect. When he goes to clean his brush, he slams it against the side of the easel and he says, I'm beating the devil out of the brush. And that's a ritual you come to expect. And you laugh alongside him and you enjoy that, sometimes even has a squirrel in his pocket. I don't know if I'd ever want to have a squirrel in my pocket, but he would do that. And you would look forward to seeing these little rituals pop up time and time again. And as you flowed through the show, you'd see the craft come to form. He would once again ask you, share with me your paintings, send in photos of your paintings, share those with me. And then he would close out his show and say, I'll see you again next time. So when you think of that execution of the show, we have perfect bookends. We have rituals that you have come to expect and guaranteed to be provided every single time. He's providing you the strategy for meaningful audience interactivity. Just having an active chat present doesn't necessarily mean that it's beneficial to the show. There can be moments of which the audience is pulling you out of that. And so I came out of a show, I would say this is now about 3 years ago. It was one of the worst shows I'd ever done. I was playing Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which was a little rough for me. It was a little bit slow moving, and I was doing this show, and I came out of it saying, well, this was not me. I did not enjoy this experience. My audience can tell I wasn't having a good time, and I was like, why? Why is this not working? And so there's 3 areas that I identified that should be key for every aspect of your creation: your foundation, your additives, and acknowledgement of your distractions and how to remove them. First of all, your foundation. What is necessary to be present in every single piece of content you produce? For me, I have to be present. If I'm not on the screen, my audience is not there. That's my core. If I wasn't, it wouldn't work. Your additives. What makes the show better? Me playing a video game is an additive. It's not the game that's driving the viewership, it's me playing the game. So therefore, the game is secondary. And for most gamers, that is the case. And you bring your aesthetic then to how are you playing that game? Are you speedrunning it? Are you exploring it from a different angle? Are you showcasing a particular skill set? Those are your additives. Additional additives are the bells and whistles, pop-ups, displays, graphics packages. Those are all your additives that hopefully make your show better. Now, those can become a distraction for your audience over time. For example, I'm sure you might have caught a live broadcast time and time again. Maybe the pop-up on screen is too loud. The alerts are constantly going off. It looks like, honestly, watching CNN with breaking news and all this stuff's happening. You don't know where to focus. That has now become a distraction for your content. So I want you to consider what aspects of your production are distractions. Perhaps it could be that person coming in the chat being a little bit unruly, ultimately like a heckler in a comedy club. I don't want that here. I'll bounce them out. Get out of my chat. You are not a part of my community. You are not contributing to the broadcast. So by setting your core foundation, establishing your additives, and showcasing this is the flow of the show, you will hopefully reduce over time your distractions. So I strongly encourage you, as you go through an exercise later today, think about what is your foundation, think about your core additives, and remove those distractions from what you create. Now, obviously, we all started with ourselves. There's a reason we started. And you want to find them. Who is the audience that you're trying to attract? I know for a fact it's not everybody. I know people are like, oh, I want to appeal to all masses. No, you don't. If everybody liked the same thing, this world would be incredibly boring if we all liked the same thing. What you're trying to find are who are those niche individuals that also align with what I believe in, who also want to champion my latest speed run or my DJ set and like the particular type of music that I'm performing. So think about who is that core audience as you're going through. And why should they care about you? Obviously, there's a lot of creators in this ecosystem. I never want you thinking about it as competition, because ultimately we're just coexisting, but I really want you to think about actually, I'll give you a comparison here. So as you walk into a carnival, if you've ever been to a carnival, they're very interesting, travel, site to site. But there will be all of these vendors in a row, and they're all shouting for your attention. Come over here, come over here, come over here, come over here. That's the entirety of the internet. It's a lot of megaphoning. But as you think about that, how are you going to get the person to come to you first and spend the time with you? It's obviously being the best version of yourself, presenting forward the best version of your craft, even if that is through an experimental phase and you're trying something new. But let them know, this is how you can come into my world, and this is why you should be in my world, and I want you to be here for a long time. A lot of amusement parks have perfected this craft, especially Disney, when you think of how they operate their parks. They know how to drive an audience to certain location. So think about that for yourself, because there is so much noise on the internet. And because there's so much noise, I want you to really be thinking about what services are you utilizing for your business. Now, I know there's some creators who do full distribution strategies across every single service on the internet. And bless them, I don't have the time for that. As I'm getting older, after 16 years of doing this, I can't create on TikTok. I'm like the boomer coming up to the space. It doesn't apply for me effectively, just for my audience. But that said, other services do still continue to work for me. Twitter causes meaningful engagement with my fans. Discord is a wonderful community base that we can have conversations after the show. It's like going to a bar space after a show. Think about which of these services are most meaningful to you. I typically start with what are the 3 core that absolutely need to be provided for, and then think of your tangential distribution over time. Because obviously every service is going to say, create, 8 posts here, 10 posts here, all this type of stuff. Focus on what's best for you and actually fulfilling to the furthering of your career and where your audiences are that want to connect with you. Now, all of the creators that are here in the space and many of the creators that are watching at home, you've established a base, and that base could be of any size. I put out a tweet a few years back that I want you all to get rid of the term small streamer. I want that term gone. And the reason why is because if you have 10 people watching your show, you're playing, a jam session in the garage with your friends. You got 30 people? Great, you have a house party. You're hanging out with 30 people who want to be in your space with you. Even if it's just one-on-one, that is a direct conversation you're having with somebody, and those are sometimes the most meaningful conversations. If you have 100, you just filled a black box theater. You got 500, you're filling an auditorium. Remove small streamer from vocabulary. Remove up and coming over time, because you're already present. You're already icons. You just have to own your icon status. Now, you have this us, you have this collective around you, you have this group that is watching you, and they care about you. But do they care about you for the reason why you got into the space? Do they believe what you believe? Are they embodiments of your values? Do they go into the space and champion your values and what you continue to create? If they don't, this is typically where we see creators burn out. You've attracted an audience base that's expecting something of you, but they're not celebrating you. They're not genuinely caring about what you're trying to bring to the space. And as you can see, the us goes back to you. That's where the burnout occurs, and that's why I encourage you, at this point, with the audience that you've curated, collected, and built around you, are you still connected to yourself and the reason why you got here? And it's okay to let segments of audience go over time and say, you know what, you just don't align with where I am. Maybe it changed over the years. Your why statement changes over the years. When I first got into the space when we were working with 5-second films, our whole purpose was, we're going to waste your time, but not very much. Then mine transitioned to, I believe some of the greatest stories are the ones we tell together, so let's tell one tonight. And with quarantine, we all got beat down as creators because we're just like, oh, we have to constantly be creating. People want positivity and all these factors. And so I transitioned to, well, let's just have a great today and an even better tomorrow. Regardless of how the world is going and what's going on, we're just going to do the best we can in this moment, and tomorrow's going to be even better. So think for yourself, as you align your why statement to what you're creating moving forward, continue to communicate that and ensure it's aligning with your current values and what you're hoping to achieve. And as you're thinking about your audience, is this the complete audience? We heard earlier, obviously, as they started with lacrosse as being, that's a segmented audience. My base, I go by Kawaii Guy on Twitch. My base is Harajuku fashion, Japanese culture, Japanese RPGs. It's a very specific niche, and I have to understand that. And as I think of the expansion, if I wanted to expand to other bases, my persona may have to shift. It comes down to where are you comfortable and what community do you want to build that upon? So think for yourself, is this the audience you want? And is this a complete full audience that believes in what you believe? Now, when you think about creating on Twitch, there's obviously the big PC kits, on the second floor here at this lovely space. There's an incredible setup for broadcasting. I want you to know you don't have to do that. You don't have to go ham right out the gate. You can reduce it to just simply the tools that are already in your pocket. Y'all have your Samsung devices in your pocket today. You can live broadcast right now. There's a partner in ours, Kelsey, who actually was broadcasting from the hotel room the other evening. And it was a huge event. We had, I don't know how many gift subs came in through your broadcast. It was a lot. It was a little bit overwhelming for a hotel broadcast. But you have the ability to go live right now. And what I want you to do, as you experiment going live, is share a story. Celebrate a success. Tell about your craft. Share a drink with them. Sit over coffee and just talk about the world. The more that you can have these meaningful engagements with your audience, that is why they're going to care about you and follow you through the rest of your career. There's one member of my chat that's now watched me for over 10,000 hours. And this gentleman is one of the most passionate, kind, genuine people in the world. And I'm appreciative for what they've brought to my space because they embody a similar value and they know that I will continue to provide that value. You will also build bases that believe in that same manner for you. Another factor of being live, embrace being live. When I stepped on stage here, what's going through my head? Am I going to trip? Am I going to stumble? Am I going to flub some of the things that I'm speaking about? That's the glory of live entertainment. It's not edited. It's not perfectly crafted. It's human. What we're executing, live performance, stage, live streams, it's theater. It's the earliest of art forms. It's sharing a communal story with folks who want to listen, who want to celebrate with you. So embrace the fact that we are all human. We all make mistakes. We all slip up. But that's what's important. That's what makes us real, and that's what makes people engaged with you. So I just want to say once again, thank you. And I leave you with a quote that is incredibly important, especially with how many creators are out here and at home as well. There's an amazing record producer, Jimmy Iovine. Started working with, the Beatles early on, was one of his first gigs, I think, working with John. And as he went through his career, obviously establishing with Beats by Dre. But he says something that's very important, and I want you to truly internalize as you look at this space. There's a reason why racehorses in a race put blinders on. Because if those horses were to look to their left and right, they're going to stumble and fall. So I want you to think about yourself being a horse in that race, obviously. You're going towards a goal. Put the blinders on. Don't look to your left and right. Don't compare. Don't trend chase. Don't look at one another. You can celebrate one another, support one another, obviously, in this. We're all in the race together. But stay focused on your goal and continue to run at it. I appreciate you all. Thank you for having me. And I'm actually going to bring up Maggie for some Q&A. We are going to be pulling questions from the chat as well as from all you folks.
Thank you, John. Hi. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll be taking questions from our live stream, so they're coming in as we're up here, and then also questions from the audience. So if you have a question for John, raise your hand. We'll give you the mic, and we'll kick it off.
Awesome.
All right. So we have some good questions coming in already.
Okay, let's do it.
A lot of it has to do with Twitch. A lot of it has to do with you.
Okay.
So let's start with Twitch. What are the opportunities within Twitch? We know it's not just gaming, right?
That's right.
So tell us a little bit more about opportunities for these creators.
For sure. So I think of the origins of Twitch with Justin TV. Effectively, that was the Truman Show live. So Justin was just broadcasting their life and living. And that's what ultimately pulled in those first viewers. And obviously, as the years went on, video game culture started to increase. A lot of people leaned into gaming. But when I think about Twitch, it truly is a black box theater where anything can be created, anything can be crafted. If you are a painter, you can celebrate your art with them. You can paint alongside your artists, just like Bob Ross, as I was saying earlier. For myself, I get to explore my love of 80s Japanese music and fusion with my DJ sets. You can celebrate your skill sets if you just discovered a new skill set, whether that is you going to a golf range or fishing, when I think of some of the peers that I've had in the past. And so Twitch can literally be whatever you want it to be, and it can be as expansive as you want it to be. It can be simple in terms of execution, just like the hotel broadcast. It could be as complicated as there was a creator, German985, who executed a program called Dollhouse, where they had built an entire house set, and the audience controlled them, much like a Sims game. And you could interact with it, place their furniture, control their experience. Do you eat? Do you go to the restroom? So it can be as simple or expansive as you want it to be. I just encourage you to explore whatever that is for yourself.
Okay, to kind of snowball off that. So
Sure.
I know a lot of people think in order to kind of find success, you have to, in the gaming world specifically, you have to follow the trends. But after talking to you, I know you have a strong opinion on this.
Yes.
So what's your take? Follow the trends?
No. So I think I said it during the presentation, do not trend chase, create a trend. When we think of those who actually make a mark on the world, they are separating from what people are typically seeing. Now, I know trends feed into algorithm favors and ultimately can help with potential attraction viewership, but typically what you're attracting in is an audience that's now expecting to you only create that. So think of how you're attracting an audience in when coming through. Recently, there was a new game that came out, Elden Ring, which honestly is beating me up at home when I'm trying to play that game. It's very difficult. But day one, so many broadcasters flooded that category creating. And what ultimately that does is it's just a crowded ocean. And unless you already command the top, it's going to be very difficult to be discovered. So what you want to be identifying is, what is the blue ocean opportunity? What is the opportunity for maybe a title or a game or a thought or a piece that I could be creating that feeds a niche that isn't heavily being attached to right now? Among Us was a great example of that before it took off. There were initial groups of creators that were like, this game was already out for a couple of years, let's try it. And then it became a trend. They set a trend. So think for yourself, what are those opportunities to tell a story just based on what my experience is and what I'm interested in that can then potentially create a trend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Your best advice for how can someone stay relevant and grow their audience? Loaded question.
That is a loaded question. Okay, so to stay relevant, continue to evolve. I'll speak from honesty, even to myself. I'm not as relevant as I was in 2009. I had my success cycle early. And when I think of that journey, what you have to abandon is ego over time. Obviously, celebrate your successes, celebrate when you have those ups and downs. But I don't drive 350,000 views per video anymore. And that's okay, because now I've evolved it into a different art. I found a personal relationship with my audience that honestly, I make more now than I did when I was driving 350,000 views per video, because I have a direct relationship with a smaller audience base. And so separation from ego, allowing yourself to evolve, allowing yourself to experiment. I was actually joking in the green room earlier about how I had made a bet with somebody back in, 2010? I'm like, no one's ever gonna watch videos on mobile. I was wrong there. When I think of another one, it was just like, oh, no one's ever gonna watch vertical video. It crops out everything from the scene. Well, was wrong there. But with every time that I was wrong, I then was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try to learn, why does this work? Why does this short form work? Why does this app work over this app? So even if you have opinions, still allow yourself the openness to explore and find those opportunities where you continue to grow. Because if you do not continue to grow and evolve in this space, there's a lot of folks in this space. And you'll just have to be prepared for what is that next stage in your career, if so.
Yeah, excellent. So a lot of up-and-coming creators, established creators in the room, on the live stream, are starting to make money, right?
Yes.
So I think kind of an important question, what's your advice to those that are starting to make money? They're kind of hitting a peak in their career, right?
Okay, yes. So prepare for tax season is number one. There are many times I see somebody hits a peak cycle and they're like, oh man, like there are creators over the years, especially when I was managing creators independently, who pull in several $1 million over the course of a month. They're like, this is gonna continue forever. It's not. So you have to brace yourself for investments ensuring for your future. And investments could be traditional investments, but also think about how am I investing into myself, whether that is education, furthering my craft, my skill sets, the actual production equipment of which I'm utilizing, am I continuing to increase the value of which I'm presenting to the space? So I would say, as you're hitting peaks, invest in yourself. As you're hitting, I said the valleys or your runway. I know some people say plateau. I'm like, creators never really plateau. You're just back on a runway waiting for the next takeoff. So if you're sitting on that runway ready to take off, how are you preparing for the next journey for yourself? How are you resting, recharging, not beating yourself up? Because if you get out of the negative mindset that could be applied, you will take off again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Appreciate that.
All right, from the live stream, from Joy Low Key, how do you keep streams interesting?
Ooh, okay. So this is actually a theory that was presented to me back when I was at Carnegie Mellon University. And so my mentor at the time had told me the most dangerous thing an audience member could ever do is look at their watch. That means you've lost them. They no longer care about what's taking place on the stage. So as a director, and all of you are creators, so technically you are all directors creating a craft, you want to be thinking about how can I control, he compared it to basketball, the basketball that is on the court. I always want to make sure their focus is being drawn to a particular area and one particular area at any given point. If you do too many calls to action, they may click on none. So always make sure you're driving to a singular action. If you are a gaming broadcaster, I'm going for a very particular goal, just like Bob Ross with his paintings. I'm going for a very particular goal to achieve today. Okay, I will maintain my attention towards you till you hit that goal, or you determine for yourself, I cannot achieve that goal. So to maintain interest in yourself, you have to maintain and communicate what is the goal for us being here? What are we trying to get towards? Because if you go in without a goal, your audience also will just feel like, oh, I could leave at any time.
Excellent. Okay, this is our last question.
Okay.
I think it's a really good one.
Okay.
So you discussed that you don't really, care too much about follower counts, right?
No.
So, but some feel that success is kind of defined by number of followers, and
Sure.
That's success for them. So how do you get past that stereotype?
Yes.
And focus on creating.
Yes. So when it comes to followership, I know oftentimes we'll hear brands are looking for this, they're looking for X, they're looking for Y, they're looking for this particular reach. What I can tell you, and this is from personal experience, it's covered right now, but Sanrio has been a supporter of my business for many years. It always comes down to having a genuine personal relationship with the person that is on the brand side. And that is typically similar to the audience when I was talking about your alignment with your audience. It's an alignment with the brand. I believe in the similar message of small gift, big smile, where it's just like if you do a kind gesture to somebody, it will bring even greater moments to their day. For yourself, what are the brands that align with what you are trying to achieve in the space? Those are the people that will listen to you because you already have a shared language. In the same way that I have my Zelda tattoo on my hand, Zelda fans are like immediately, oh yeah, Triforce. We now have a shared language. Brands function the same way, and I can promise you they will look past any of the metrics because you stand for what they stand for. That's why you all are here right now. Because they share the same vision and the goals of which you want to achieve. They want to work with you moving forward. And for those of you who are watching, think the same for yourself too. Separate from the metrics. The metrics will always change. Don't get absorbed in the analytics, because that is just a slippery slope that you'll continue to fall down. Really focus on yourself, establish the relationships of whom share a like mind, and you will experience success the rest of your career.
Excellent, Jon.
I appreciate
Jon, thank you so much for being here with us. Jon Brence, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
You go ahead.
Perfect.